How's it going? Good evening. I wanted to get on and do a video on my warm-up routine, and it ties into some basic, technique exercises at the same time, basically chromatics and things of that nature. But I try and simplify things. I don't run I don't run patterns all up and down the neck like a marathon or anything like that. I usually stick to one position because the thing that I'm getting out of like things like chromatics is just basic subconscious synchronization between both my hands. So if I'm, just going, a lot of times I'll just stick into that one position no matter which exercise I'm on. I'm not going to jump all over the place. If my hand starts to hurt, I'll stop. So I don't turn it into a marathon exercise or anything like that. But just, in this one position, my basic routine consists of basically that exercise there, and then I do a few 2 finger per string exercises, which I think are more important than the chromatics in terms of warming you up for technique. Because think about it, most licks either have 2 or 3 notes per string. A lot of times, a lot of licks will alternate between 2 notes per string, going back and forth up the neck, things like that. So I think the 2 note per string stuff is even more important if you want to get your hands in tune and you want to try and play fast, if you're going to be doing anything like that. So I'll show you a couple of these things. I'm going to start off at a nice slow tempo here. I got a metronome on. If you don't have a metronome, metronomeonline.com, you just jump on there, you just put on whatever tempo. It's immediate. There's no ads pop in your face. It's a great free site for a metronome if you don't have anything else lying around. So I'm going to pop this on 88. We'll do a couple exercises. So first I'll just do that chromatic run, again in this position, starting at 9, 10, 11, 12, up the whole neck. So the key here is to stay on beat. I'm looking for 100% pure accuracy. If I start drifting at such a low tempo, I'm going to be no good at anything moderately fast. So the key here is, and really at all tempos, 100% accuracy. So that was pretty clean. Now the other thing I do is, again, the 2 note per string exercises. So I'm going to alternate. I'm going to go 1, 2, up and down the neck, 1, 3, which would be 9 and 11, and then 1, 4, 9, 12, 9, 12, 9, 12, all the way up and down the strings. You'll see what I'm doing here. But this is good for warming yourself up for any of, 2 note per string licks, stuff like that. I think it's more effective than just the 4 note per string chromatics, really, when you're warming up. It goes like this. Sometimes I go back down 1, 3, and then 1, 2 again. But that's the idea. That was pretty clean there. This one gets exponentially harder than the 4, just the 4 note per string up and down chromatic thing. This one gets way harder at a much slower tempo. So we'll bump it up a bit. We'll go to 100 and do both those again. And right off, the 2 note per string thing gets very difficult, even at 100 BPM. So the chromatic isn't that bad, but again, I'm striving for 100% accuracy. I don't want to drift at all, otherwise it more or less defeats the purpose. Oh. So now we'll do the 2 note. So again, that wasn't too bad. Now again, I don't do. Some guys go all the way up the neck, starting at this fret and on, like I was saying before. I don't really do that. The only thing I can say is I would recommend doing it somewhere in the upper register, because as you'll see, the higher up you go, the less margin for error you have. Down here, if you're, if you're off a little bit on the fret, you'll still pretty much get the note to ring out. But if you're off a little bit up here, you could end up with something like that. So practice it high as well. It forces you to be even more accurate. So I'll start on 15 here. So it gets more difficult. I was, a little bit choppy there on that, pretty much all of that at certain parts, because the higher up you are, again, there's less string to vibrate. So if you're off a little bit, the note might not ring out at all. So it's very important to be on. So practicing it in higher registers is very good for that. But we'll go to a little bit of a faster tempo, and we'll try these out. Again, that 2 note per string is going to get very difficult now. We'll just bump it up to 120. And even the chromatic, it's not necessarily hard picking at 120 beats per minute 16th notes. The problem is keeping your fingers in sync and not getting ahead of yourself or behind yourself. I think I have a tendency naturally to rush, so I'll start this and then I'll be on the next string before the downbeat hits. So, I have to watch out for something like that. So you might have that problem, or alternatively, it might be a little bit too slow. But this will kind of flesh those problems out once you start doing this exercise at a moderate tempo like this. And, even just to get a feel for the tempo, I'll just go like this a couple times. So that wasn't too bad, but I can feel myself starting to get tested there if I'm striving for 100% accuracy. And again, I don't have a lot of gain on here. This is basically just my dumble patch. So it's, a little bit more than the edge of break. Up here is on a bridge position. It's... So I don't have a ton of gain going on here. Of course, the more gain you have, the more kind of margin for error you'll have as the gain will cover up your mistakes. So better to practice with less gain than more, but you don't want to drive yourself crazy and just, with a totally clean sound. It's fun to practice with a little bit of gain, right? So dumble sound I have here, it's not too bad. It doesn't hide my mistakes, but it's pleasant enough to practice with. Let's put it that way. So again, I'm now on a 2 note per string thing. This is going to be considerably difficult. I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to get this at 120 beats per minute. It's so hard just jumping up 2 notes per string like this. I had it there a little bit, but more often than not, that was a little sloppy. So that's what I'm talking about. When you start doing this 2 note per string thing fast, if you're not used to these, that is, it's very challenging, but it's a great practicing. So if, when I'm warming up, I'm starting again at a slow tempo. I probably wouldn't even take that exercise that fast if I'm trying to warm up to play at church or something, and I really want to have my technique on. I'll probably limit it somewhere between 100 and 120, like 108, a little bit slower, a little bit easier. Again, this is just 100% accuracy is the goal. So that's going to find holes in your finger coordination real quick, like it did there for me. It's a great exercise, and if you take it slow, for me it's a great warm-up, because if I can get myself used to hitting these, you know, all these, 1, 2, if I can hit all that accurate in a warm-up, I'm better off when I'm getting ready to play for real. So those are two great exercises. I do them every time I'm warming up. Again, I usually take it pretty slow. If I'm going to be working on technique to try and, you know, stretch myself a little bit, I will bump up the tempo. And another thing I will do is for extremely fast tempos, I will just try and play 16th notes, you know, almost like a tremolo pick, but 16th notes in time with the metronome. It's actually harder than it sounds. So let's just bump this up to, we'll start at 160, which I can usually get without too much problem. So if you do that and you pay close attention to the metronome, you can hear when it's perfectly on and you can hear when you're off. So, you know, I'm listening to myself that I was on most of the time at this tempo, but I was still off a little bit here and there. But if you start bumping it up, I'll go to 176. I'm not even sure I can do this. You know, you think when you hear like Metallica just go, it sounds easy, but if you're trying to do it in time with a metronome, it's actually pretty challenging. So I'll try this at 176. Again, I'll prime myself a little bit by just doing quickly the one beat, 16th notes. That'll help me get in time. Right off, I can tell I'm off. That was pretty tight there, but that's a great way you can get yourself used to faster tempos. If you're not ready to even try any type of chromatic at all, just throw on a metronome and just try playing 16th notes along to whatever tempo you're at. Again, at faster tempos, it's harder than it looks. I even, I had to practice a little bit just to be able to get to this 176 to go at that, like that. But I can tell you this: if I was cold, I wouldn't be able to do that at all. The fact that I warmed up, I've been playing for a little while here already. Prior to shooting this, my hands are nice and warm, so I can hit these higher tempos. If I'm raw cold, I can definitely not do that. So that's another reason why I take a nice slow warm up, make sure my hands feel good, because that does lead to being able to play faster. Tremolo pick or whatever have you. But that's pretty much it. I do the chromatic runs 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I do the 2 note per string 1, 2, all the way up 1, 3, and then 1, 4. I occasionally will do the like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, that thing. But then we got to go much slower for that. This thing here. Mistakes in there, so that's another great one. It'll catch little flaws in your technique real fast. You'll hear where you're not able to hit the notes right when you're switching fingers around. Try that one more time in this position here. So when it comes to these exercises, again, I tried to stress it a couple times when I was playing along, but accuracy 100% is the key for me, because if I'm going to be getting this sloppy as I'm trying to practice, then anything I'm trying to play for real is going to follow in the same suit. So when I'm doing this, I'm not striving for the fastest tempo. I'm not striving to stretch myself tempo-wise in terms of a warm-up. I'm trying to strive for 100% accuracy. And again, if I want to start taking it into technique practice, then yes, I also strive for 100% accuracy. I just inch myself up the metronome as I can go. And again, if you want to practice faster tempos, but you're not ready for the chromatics, give the the tremolo things, playing 16th notes along to whatever tempo. Again, high tempo, 160, 180, somewhere in that range. See how you do. Again, if you listen to the metronome, you'll be able to hear if you're on or off relatively easily. So it's a great way to train your hand to be subconsciously 100% in rhythm. If you can do that, if your hand's doing that automatically, anything that comes out of your guitar is going to sound in time at the very least. So I think it's important for that reason alone. But again, I hope you enjoyed this. Give these warm-up exercises a try. If you're not used to them, I think you'll find they challenge you, especially the two-note thing. That's tough, even that tempo there. I've been working on a technique for a long time, but never just sat there for 6 hours a day. So stuff like that is still challenging. But I know that if I practice this stuff and I inch my way up the metronome, I start getting faster, that's going to translate into my playing. So it's good for warming up, and it's good for stretching yourself, getting yourself a little faster. But again, I hope you got something out of this, and have a good night.